I think we have time for another call. Who do we have on the line?
Electric Outcast.
Oh, yeah. EO. EO from our chat, right? EO, how are you? Welcome.
Well, guess who's watching you from his brand new gaming desktop?
Watch me where? Sorry, it got choppy on my end.
I'm watching you on Twitch via my brand new gaming desk.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Those of you that don't know what Twitch is, it's what your kid watches gamers on all day long. And it's twitch.tv/HalSparks, or you can just go to fwank.com, FWANQ, of course, .com. But thanks, EO. I appreciate that. Anyways, go ahead.
Well, so earlier in the show, you were talking about the voter Karens, which is basically what I'm going to call them. And I wanted to share with you my own example of a voter Karen that happened to me while I was going to vote for Biden.
Uh-huh.
So I was waiting in line, as you would do, and didn't even start anything. And everything was quiet and all that good stuff. But someone in front of a few spots ahead of us had this silly hat, and by silly I meant that it was kind of like an Indian headdress, but it was made out of construction paper, like it was made by a kindergartner. Crap you not.
Was this in the third week of November? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, anyway, so he ended up throwing this major fit and just stormed out of my polling place and said, "Oh, well, it's not like my vote's going to count anyway. I'm out of here."
Right. It sounds like a troll. It sounds like it literally just for show. It might as well be somebody doing an election fraud TikTok video.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I wouldn't rule it out.
How it exactly led to that, but that's what pretty much happened. So.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one more thing before I go. A few weeks ago, you mentioned on various occasions about how Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general could be wiped out by hacking, and I wanted to see if you could give us some more context at some point.
Say that again. Sorry, I was switching headphones at the tail end of that. I apologize, but go ahead.
I was trying to see if you could give us more context about it at some point. A little bit curious and also confused on how it would work.
No, sorry, Johnny, Neo.
About cryptocurrency.
The comment about your first part of your question, not the about the crypto.
I was asking how it could be hacked, like how cryptocurrency could be hacked.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So first of all, it's all digital. So it's kind of a murky world anyways to start with. But we just figured out one of the reasons why cryptocurrency took a dive. I would say the primary reason why it took a dive recently was because of the news about the ransomware task force finding a way to break into someone's crypto wallet and getting the money back that these ransomware guys had taken and had gotten paid in Bitcoin. As soon as that became a reality, and it was, by the way, it's always been a reality. This is the first time it really hit the news. A bunch of people ditched out of that and took their cash out and hid it someplace because they thought it was safe. It was a poor man's Swiss bank account. Imagine, if you will, that a bank in the Cayman Islands all of a sudden got audited. All of a sudden, all the money that's hidden in the Cayman Islands would scatter. Immediately, 50% of it there would be dudes in sunglasses and Italian suits, very shiny suits, thin ties, with fellows with MP5s walking next to them, walking in and out of there with giant trunks of cash. Because they would move it someplace else. They just wouldn't trust it. Because right now, the perception is Swiss bank accounts, Cancun and the Bank of Cyprus, that's where you put your money if you want to hide it. And because nobody can get to it. The same thing was true of Bitcoin. It was like the poor man's Bank of Cyprus. It was the poor man's Bank of Cancun or Bank of Cayman. Sorry, I was thinking about Ted Cruz and for a second there. That's what that's where he hired. He's got a lockbox full of flip flops that in case he can break away in the middle of the night. He's got one of those like spy briefcases, but all it's got is like sunscreen and half-eaten churros. But that's why.
He'd have a suitcase full of I was saying he'd have a suitcase full of khaki Hawaiian tourist shirts.
That's right, yeah, and MAGA hats to wear in case he gets busted, so he can always have one going back. Like he's got Texas hats in case somebody spots him at the airport. But the day that happens, a lot of those people wouldn't feel safe to hide their money. And these are the big level players in the world, right? The low level players, which are African South American drug gangs, low-level real estate and tax dodgers in Europe, and drug gangs in the United States, Canada, and Northern Europe. Where those folks went, oh, wow, I can suddenly get my own Cayman Islands bank account just by using Bitcoin. Those folks suddenly got a wake-up call when money was retrieved from one of these ransomware things. And as soon as that became a possibility, everybody got out. That does not mean, by the way, everybody who's still in Bitcoin, still in Doge and all that kind of stuff, it's going to continue it'll settle and then start to grow again. But the criminals got out. That was and by the way, this relates to why we've always kissed the ring of the Saudis for a long time. For the last 2 decades, the Saudis, knowing they were running out of oil and were becoming a cash poor society, put a lot of their money in our stock market. $1 trillion, but 1.6 now. It was $1 trillion 5 years ago. They have $1 trillion in our stock market. And the idea is that they could, at any time, withdraw that money and crash our economy. Not because suddenly our companies aren't worth anything, not because our companies wouldn't have the ability to, get a loan to pay their employees or any of that. None of that stuff would cease to be true, but the Saudis would suck so much money out of it, it would panic every other buyer, and all the automatic computers that sell on bad sells. Basically there's
it's like the Bailey building,
a chatbot version of the Dukes from Trading Places that would just yell sell as soon as somebody else does. Those would all kick in and crash our economy. So we've always been tiptoeing around them, because if they pull that $1 trillion out in a big hurry, they wouldn't get all of it, and they would lose a lot of it over the course of the day as they would try to do it, and a lot of their sales would be considered illegal and all that kind of stuff. But it's just important. We got to take a break. It's important to know that that's why, now that Bitcoin isn't this perfect hiding place like the Bank of Cyprus, a bunch of people got out. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this.